A navegação
trazendo benefícios para todos que usam a internet no Brasil. Toda essa inovação, tecnologia de ponta, segurança e infraestrutura só é possível porque você tem um domínio .br. NIC.br, sempre em busca do melhor para a nossa internet.
Senhoras e senhores, muito bom dia, sejam todos bem-vindos. Damos as boas-vindas aos participantes presenciais deste evento e aos que nos assistem pela transmissão pelo canal do NIC.br no YouTube.
Infelizmente, o áudio não está chegando.
Damos as boas-vindas aos participantes do seminário ECA Digital, Proteção de Crianças e Adolescentes, Perspectivas Globais e Multissetoriais para a Implantação da Lei. É uma enorme satisfação ter todos vocês aqui conosco hoje. Este evento é realizado pelo Comitê Gestor da Internet.
This event is organized by the CGI.br and the NIC.br, which is the Coordination Center. We are here today to celebrate the digital law for children and adolescents and also to foster the debate about the challenges of the obligations that were enforced yesterday, March 17, 2026. We have here a number of authorities from the civil society, business society, to talk about the challenges and opportunities addressing the recent changes of the Statute of Children and Adolescents. We have the institutional support of ANPD, the Brazilian Institute of Learning, Development and Research, and Fiocruz institutions, to which we'd like to thank you deeply for your support. Digital ECA is introducing a new legal framework for prevention of risks and promoting safer digital environment for children and adolescents. We will address age assurance, age verification, which are security and safety requests where content moderation will be implemented. This new scene allows constant dialogue among the different stakeholders of the society. Throughout the day, we are going to talk about topics such as risks in the digital environment, challenges in age verification, not just in Brazil, but everywhere else, digital inequalities for children and adolescents, well-being for the use of internet, the role of families, and shared responsibilities in building up an effective, protective ecosystem. Several challenging topics for the implementation of digital ECA will be debated by different representatives of the society, allowing a multi-sectorial debate. Some reminders. All the attendees will get a participation certificate. Those who are on site and also online, you have to introduce yourself throughout the QR code to be entitled to get the participation certificate. So please submit your questions in writing. We have receptionists around who may take your question. We had to change the agenda of the seminar due to the decree of regulation of digital ECA. We are going to conclude this session at 2:35. You may find the updated agenda at our website. Now, I would like to invite the Federal Deputy Rogéria Santos, who is the coordinator of the Working Group for Protection of Children and Adolescents in the Congress. Victor Oliveira Fernandes, National Secretary for Digital Rights and for the Digital MSP. We also have the representative, Mr. Ortunho, who is the president of ANPD, Data Protection Agency, Demi Getsko, the CEO of NIC.br. And Professor Laura Sheder, representing the Brazilian Institute of Learning and Research, IDP, and Renata Miele, who is the coordinator of CGI.br. Let's hand over to the coordinator of CGI.br, Renata Miele. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I would like to thank you so much for your presence today at the premises and also those who have joined us remotely. I also like to greet my dear colleagues, Demi, Rogeria, President Valdemar, Laura, and Victor. To CGI, this is a very special day. As this is the first day that digital ECA has been enforced. This is a bill that the CGI has been following since its early days, where we at CGI, we manage topics related to protection of children and adolescents in the digital environment. We are going to carry out our 11th edition of the symposium for children and adolescents in the digital environment. Therefore, throughout those 11 years, we have been trying to understand the activities of children and adolescents in the web. Therefore, as I said, today is a very special day, and I wish you all a very fruitful day. We're going to have a number of keynote and international participants who will also share their perspectives. And I'm just here, to officially open this session and to wish you a very profitable event, and good morning. Next, Professor Laura from IDP. Good morning. Let me greet my dear panelists, Professor Demi, the Deputy Rogeria, Professor Valdemar, and everybody else. It's a great honor to be participating at this special event organized by NIC and CGI. I can see several colleagues in the audience, a number of professors, and a number of several friends who have joined us throughout this long journey. For many decades, And once this event takes place, just one day after the bill has been approved, Brazil has allowed stronger features for the protection of children and adolescents in physical areas, but not remotely. Platforms, they were designed to maximize the engagement without any distinction of ages. But now with the digital ECA, that has changed as it guides the protection and replace the interest of full protection of our children and adolescents. That is not just a norm, but a total paradigm change. The new law allows a protective structure based on risks, and it demands that the protection will be present since the draft of this structure that has to be secure since its architecture and design. And concrete measures such as the prohibition of any behavioral advertisement for children and adolescents to guide them to allow reliable tools. And some of those rules, we know they are already implemented in Europe based on the UK laws and ECDA. This new law allows that the innovation of content without any legal order, which is very innovative in our legal framework. But the main goal of this event is exactly to allow that this legal framework will have its effectivity. It's very important to have to have laws that will be balanced and also to apply them, to make them a reality and not just a draft. And it's our commitment to help in that endeavor. This is a historical achievement where Brazil and other countries are together, not just in Latin America, but globally speaking. And that's probably why we are talking about a journey which has not ended yet after the approval of the law by the Congress, which was exactly the main role of this decision. Online children and adolescent online protection is a shared responsibility where it will involve companies, state, parents, and the society as a whole. With that, thank you so much for everyone and enjoy this session. Thank you. Professor Demi Getsko, who is the president of NIC.br. I am so happy to be part of this panel. This is a very important time to the country as a whole, and I will try to be very conceptual from internet perspective. There is internet in Brazil since 89 and some connections in 91 and some previous connections in 88 that has always been an example to be followed by other countries. We were very successful with the .br. We have 5,600,000 members enrolled. We also built up a committee in 1995, and that steering committee was designed even before ECA, which is also a multi-sectorial institute, and CGI had a number of achievements, such as the 10 chapters in 2009, which was the main root for the legal civil framework, and also has leveraged LGPD. If you'd like to get more into that topic, there are several publications by CGI where we advocate for all those concepts of privacy and so on and so forth. The Decalogue, the 10 chapters, it's long-lasting, as lasting as the Illuminism that may change one day, but anyhow, concepts will not change unless the society culture is changed, and that can be badly interpreted. For example, when they say that intermediates are not responsible for the messages, you have to tackle upon the end agents. Fine, but you have to define what intermediates mean. If I get a electronic message, I'm not going to sue the electronic message system, but the subject who sent me the message. If someone calls me and offends me, that is not the telco to be guilty, but the one who made the call. You know what I mean? And there are intermediates who are no longer intermediates, but that is a totally different story. If I get a video that no one has sent me, but just the algorithm, probably the final agent is the algorithm, is the platform. So the Decalogue was not, blocking anyone, but the final agents will be the responsibles for the problem. And we have to define who does what, and CGI has done that. NIC.br is involved in the Brazilian registry, but it reached its institutional level and it got we are a company with we have a number of publications about children, adolescents, statistics. We promote a number of workshops. We have the first IXP in the world. So we have just good news to break, and this is an image to be preserved. That's why we are discussing about children and adolescents protection. But let's not forget about important actions to be taken, such as the first open free software congress took place a couple of years ago, and they are aligned to internet. And another illustration in 1993, we have that meme of the dog typing, and they say it's good that no one knows that you are just a dog. Of course, that things they change throughout time, but that is a meme who was kept. I'm very glad to see that ANPD is balancing LGPD and digital ECA by the same institution, and they are doing a great job. So I wish to ANPD, on behalf of Valdemar, to be very sensible and to balance all these factors. Well, we have to keep on protecting children and adolescents. This is our role. And if internet is an open park, is a forest, a way to protect that forest is to send the kids to playgrounds that or to be at home with their parents, and also a proper parental control. If you are not able to control the forest, at least you are able to control your own playground. And to close, I have a Vincent Cerf quote. Once we were in Lithuania, and he said, at the internet, you find bad things as well as when you are reading a book on the library. And why are there so many bad things? Because internet is a mirror of the society. If you look at yourself at the mirror and you don't like what you see, breaking the mirror is not a solution. Thank you. Dr. Valdemar Gonçalves, President of ANPD.
Good morning. Let me greet all of you. Demi, Laura, Victor. It is a pleasure to be here. I would like to greet all of those who are watching us here on site and remotely. This is a special day for ANPD, the Brazilian Agency of Data Protection. Digital ECA is a legal milestone to our society. It is a way of taking away just the control of parent control, who had to monitor on their own how their children accessed internet. I always give a simple example. You don't simply leave your minor child downtown, such as in Rio, São Paulo, Salvador, or Recife, on his or her own. But people may not be aware of how risky it is to have a child on his own in a closed room with internet. So digital ECA has come to help us with that. We want to make sure that we have safe digital environment for children and adolescents, strengthening family values. This is the consequence of our law. We are now sharing the task, which would be just in the hands of parents, but now sharing that with companies that work in the digital world, sharing that with the civil society, with the academia. We are now sharing responsibilities, and this dialogue is something extremely important. I would like to greet NIC.br for this initiative. The more we can talk, the better digital ECA will be effectively enforced. ANPD, since September last year, when we became the main coordinating agency of digital ECA, we start working on training, on internal discussions, inviting experts to talk about that. So we've been getting ready. We've been monitoring and selecting different partners, companies, analyzing their answers and how they could really support us and how well they were getting prepared for the day that our digital ECA would come into effect. Now we are going into closer monitoring into different rules and regulations to be published and a specific dialogue so that everyone can really understand what happens once the digital ECA comes into effect. Our agency has had a responsive role since its inception, always trying to have the parties be in compliance with the law, not only LGPD now, but digital ECA. Our main transformation is the fact that we are a regulating agency now, strengthening budget, personnel. We went to 200 to now 400 employees. Our agency is even more prepared for this challenge. Thank you very much. These were my opening remarks. Let me hand it over to Victor Oliveira Fernandes, digital secretary of ENPN. Well, good morning. Let me greet. He is rather the National Secretary of Digital Rights. I would like to greet Representative Rogeria Santos, Renata Miali, who has been part of this journey of discussion about digital ECA. I would also like to emphasize how important this event is with IDP, something that has happened as a result of other initiatives that we had together. And today is a very special day. Day one, so to speak. Yesterday was day zero. Today it's day one of digital ECA. And at the federal government, we are discussing the creation of specific decree laws that are going to be passed today concerning the regulation of this law. And on behalf of the Ministry of Justice and Public Security, I would like to make some clarifications that are going to really be important, addressing the regulation, the enforcement of the law per se. There are 3 points that I think are worth mentioning here. All the regulation will be essential for everyone to understand the content of the law. First, we have to set apart how to determine inappropriate, inadequate content from forbidden content. Digital ECA and all the regulations do not forbid the service. Specific games, specific apps, nothing is being forbidden. What the law and the regulation dictate are restrictions concerning some specific functionalities. For example, loot boxes in e-games. If it's forbidden content, the supplier, the provider of the product, should develop a age verification function for that specific feature to be accessed within the app or the game. It doesn't mean that the entire service has to be taken from the market. This is the idea of the law. As Laura stated out, have a risk-based enforcement. For contents which are considered inappropriate or inadequate, we are going to have indicative classification of age. And then parents can have parental supervision mechanisms to block access. As child and adolescents get more autonomous, the families will determine what content can be accessed by children and adolescents. In terms of forbidden content, however, age verification should be provided to access that specific feature. So that's not absolute prohibition of services. Now, speaking of age verification, ANPD, the agency, will be essential in the enforcement of the law. The enforcement will be gradual, step by step, and we have to make it very clear. Digital ECA requires a changing mindset for children, adolescents, and the adults, which will have to be more familiarized with the control mechanisms that will be provided by the different service providers. This is not done overnight. It takes time, it takes training, appropriate regulations to be put in place in steps. And this is what's going to be done from now on. And finally, one last point, which deserves to be mentioned, which is moderation and content exclusion. Digital ECA, at least concerning crimes, exploitation, abuse against children and adolescents, that the contents of that nature should be immediately removed after notification after the report, which is something direct, straight to the point in terms of criminal content, as has been decided by the Supreme Courts of Brazil. And finally, regulation creates a new center in the federal police for processing of information that will be brought by the platforms to the knowledge of the police authorities. A very important innovation, I have to say. For the first time ever, there'll be a clear duty of a report to the centralized authorities in the Brazilian government without depending on voluntary cooperation, international cooperation, which is a very important measure of international sovereignty that's going to be in place. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for the importance of discussions and forums such as this, so that we can have a deep dive into specific aspects, helping the clarification about the law and how it's going to be enforced. Thank you all very much. Let me now hand it over to our federal representative, Rogeria Santos. Good morning. Let me greet my fellow panelists. Let me take the opportunity to invite all of you. And I would like to invite you to think together. Very simple exercise. I know that we have people from the technical area, we have a number of specialists, we have academic specialists, everybody that works in the digital arena, and those that work with children and adolescents. But I also know that before developing any specialty knowledge, all of us, we are parents, mothers, fathers, siblings, children, uncles, aunts, neighbors, grandparents of children and adolescents. And considering everything that we are going to hear today, I would like to start by greeting the organizers. But let me invite you to picture something. To what extent are we responsible? How can we, me, myself, all of you, families, can contribute? This is a very nice piece of law which has a very good protective nature that can ensure rights, being very innovative in Brazil. However, at the same time, it shows us a very harsh reality of all of our families. We also have to understand, as a society, as specialists, as government officials, we have to understand that we have to guide Brazilian families so that mutually cooperating, we can have the actual enforcement of digital ECA. I hope that we can all together, thanks to this cooperation, we can serve as an example to the world. We Brazilians think about children and adolescents. We do think about protecting and ensuring the rights of children and adolescents. We think and consider how we can bring our families close together, no matter how far they are. Let me tell you about the state that I represent in the Chamber of Representatives, which is the state of Bahia, just to make sure that those that are in the inlands of Brazil, that even though being far, still have access to internet. So how can we make sure that they are protected? Their families will be together with us. I think my microphone is being cut off, right? We should never lose track of the fact that we have to work with the families. And this is what the working group has been doing. We have brought a number of legal uh, themes being discussed at the state representative and also at the Senate. There is a glossary, for example, available in our website. Let me greet my friend Andre, who is the creator of this glossary, which intends to educate, to teach. The report of our working group is available in our website. I've also brought some copies that I'm going to distribute to my fellow panelists. But the work has just begun. And we have to work and work hard to understand that our responsibility goes beyond designing legislation, but rather transforming it into a reality, help it take off and go into the reality, go into the society so that we can actually protect children and adolescents. This is what expected of all of us. This is what is expected, that we can really get responsible for the enforcement and for the application of digital echo. Thank you very much. Always focusing on protecting children and adolescents. A country that does not protect its own children and adolescents is a country that is doomed to fail because there might be no future to it. Thank you all very much. Thank you all very much for your comments. You've all shared the relevance of the topic and your efforts to have safer and more protected environment for children and adolescents in the society. Let me ask you for a group picture. Thank you all very much. Let's go now into our second activity of the day, our first panel.